Hello, friends, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to dive into transition words. These are words that help connect ideas and make our writing flow smoothly. So, are you ready to learn how to add transitions in revising? Good, then let's get started. Let's review why writers use transitions. Transitions connect ideas in writing and help guide the reader. Transitional words and phrases have a purpose. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Let's begin by looking at some transitions and their purpose. Examples of transitions that add include words such as and, again, moreover, in addition to, additionally, and then, besides, what's more, in addition, first, second, and last. Examples of transitions that compare include likewise, as well, in the same way, whereas, although this may be true, on the other hand, after all, nevertheless, by comparison, and meanwhile. Examples of transitions that contrast include but, yet, however, alternatively, even though, and in contrast. Remember, transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Examples of transitions that prove include consequently, thus, therefore, for the same reason, that is, in any case, indeed, in fact, evidently, and obviously. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Examples of transitions that show time include words like first, second, third, finally, then, next, soon, after that, before that, during, later, immediately, thereafter, after a few hours, after a few days, previously, and formerly. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Examples of transitions that give an example include, for example, for instance, to illustrate, in this case, to demonstrate, as an illustration, or in another case. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Examples of transitions that summarize or conclude include finally, in conclusion, therefore, in brief, to conclude, consequently, as I have said, and hence. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Examples of transitions that emphasize and indicate importance include, in fact, always, without a doubt, definitely, obviously, therefore, thus, equally important, besides, especially, above all, certainly, and as always. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Examples of transitions that show exception include yet, nevertheless, of course, still, in spite of, once in a while, however, despite, and sometimes. Transitions connect sentences. Transitions have a purpose. Let's practice transitions by analyzing the purpose to choose the correct transition. We'll start out our practice with some Release Star material. Read with me beginning at sentence 4. The birth had been eagerly anticipated for months, but observers in the barn that day were in for a big surprise. The undersized colt that wobbled to his feet was nothing special to look at. Everyone in attendance sighed. The highly anticipated colt, dusty brown with an off-center white diamond on his forehead, was obviously a dud. That's how he got the name Dudley. Since the patrol trained only the most promising horses, Dudley was sold to rancher Paul McGee. So before we begin to answer, we need to look at our answer choices and think about the purpose of each transition word. We know that however is a transition word that shows contrast or a different thought. Additionally, adds information. After that is a time order word, and in fact emphasizes a point. So we can get rid of the transition word however because there's no contrast of thought here. We can also eliminate additionally because we're not adding a different point or an additional fact. And we can get rid of after that because the transition purpose of having the time order is not important here, even though the paragraph is written in chronological order. The use of the transition, in fact, is to emphasize the point of how the Dud got the name Dudley. So, in fact, would be the correct choice because of its purpose. The purpose that it's holding in this sentence is to emphasize how the horse got its name, not for the chronological order of the events the way that they happened. Example 2. Which transition word or phrase could best be added to the beginning of sentence 23? Let's read the paragraph. 1, 2, read. Subway Cat and I never got very close to each other after that. Over time, we formed a sort of friendship. I would stare at him, he would stare at me. Sometimes, as he was leaving the train, he would turn back, proudly flick his tail, and meow. Our simple relationship continued until one Wednesday he just wasn't there. So before we try to figure out the right answer, what do? We stop and think about the purpose of each transition. Yet shows an exception, just like but. In the same way is used for comparison. For example is used to give an example, and therefore is a transition used to prove. So we know that no comparison is being made. Subway Cat and I never got very close. Over time, we formed a sort of friendship, no comparison. We know that the author is not intending to give an example here, and we know that we're not proving a point. So we know that the answer is but. In other words, the author is saying, even though we never got very close, over time we formed a sort of friendship. So yet is showing the exception. All right, let's do a little bit of guided practice. The question asks, what is the best transition to add to the beginning of sentence 15? Let's read it together. 1, 2, read. Because of the rhino's status as endangered, it's against the law to kill one. But to get a rhino horn, some people ignore this law. The number of rhinos has dropped drastically. In fact, the rhino population has decreased by about 90% in the last 40 years. So if we study each transition in the answer choices, we know that in the beginning is used for time. We know that in addition is used to add. We know that as a result indicates an effect. And we know that however is used to contrast. So now we can start to eliminate what we know is not the answer. So we know that there's nothing about time being stated here at the beginning of sentence 15. But to get a rhino horn, some people ignored this law. There's no going back to the beginning here. We know that nothing is being added. No new information is being added. So in addition would be wrong. And we know that there's nothing contrast between sentences 14 and 15. But to get a rhino horn, some people ignored this law. The number of rhinos has dropped drastically. That sounds like cause and effect. Because people ignored the law, what happened is as a result is the number of rhinos has dropped drastically. So our answer is as a result. Did you get that? Good. Let's look at this example for you to try. Which transition word or phrase could best be added to the beginning of sentence 14? Many years of improvements led to Keds, the first mass-marketed athletic shoes. Not only were Keds comfortable, but they were also very quiet. In fact, the rubber soles made them so quiet that people could sneak up on one another. People were referring to the new shoes as sneakers, and the name stuck. So let's look at each answer choice and identify the purpose. For example is used to introduce an example. There's no example here. However is used for contrast. Soon is used to indicate time, and in conclusion is used to conclude in or summarize. So if we go back to however is being used for contrast, we see that there's no contrast here. People could sneak up on one another, and then people were referring to the new shoes as sneakers. So there's nothing being concluded or ended there. So we see that this is used to indicate time. So soon would be the correct transition word. In fact, the rubber soles made them so quiet that people could sneak up on one another. Soon, people were referring to the new shoes as sneakers, and the name stuck. Not only does it connect the sentences in the proper way, but the word soon, used to indicate time, meets the purpose of the transition word. Great job, friends. Keep practicing the purpose of the transitions, and you'll be an expert in no time. Thanks for watching. Keep learning with us. Explore more educational content on our channel. Happy reading, happy learning with Miss Wilkerson and friends. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, happy reading, happy learning.